Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of the Jaded Mechanic Podcast. It's a long weekend up here in beautiful, sunny Ontario, Canada, and it's still friggin' cold in May. It's our, I guess you'd call it, we used to just call it May 2-4, but it's our Victoria Day weekend, which is some queen from way back in the monarchy that I don't even know why we still acknowledge it, but it's mostly just an excuse to drink some beer and have a long weekend. So, but it gives me some time to do some recordings and meet some new friends. So I have a friend that he's from Kansas today, and Eric Schoenberger. How are you this morning, brother?
Oh, doing all right.
Yeah. You said it's nice and warm there?
Yep. About 95 degrees.
Nice. Yeah. So, whereabouts in Kansas are you?
Oh, Central Kansas.
Central Kansas.
Right in the middle.
Yeah. I'm not sure. So our buddy David Roman, he's in Kansas.
He's on the eastern side.
Yeah.
Near Kansas City.
Yeah. Do you ever go to Vision?
Oh, yes. I went this year and last year.
How is it?
It's very good.
Yeah. That's what everybody raves about it. They say it's the event, right? It's kind of the groundbreaking one, the most established one, the kind of the ones that all the other ones want to be. So I've heard that. Never been yet, and I'm hoping to go one year. It seems to be a schedule or a budget thing always. So, but yeah. What kind of give us a little bit of an introduction? Give us the name of your shop. Kind of, let us get to know you.
Well, I work for Holt Motor Company.
Okay.
We're an independent shop, kind of do a little of everything. I've grown up in a dealer. My dad was a Chrysler tech for 35 years.
Nice.
And I worked with him beside him for 10, and Chrysler's pretty much all I've known. Yeah. I did work for an independent in high school and part of college before I went into the dealer world, and I just finally got tired of the typical headaches.
Yeah, it's yeah. I always, I still think fondly of my turn at the dealer because I learned so much, right?
Right.
You get to really polish your craft, right? You know what it's like. You know what's probably wrong with it when they write the work order and put it in front of you, right? You kind of know.
Oh, yeah.
And that's always makes you feel good, right? Gives you confidence.
Yeah, you've mastered the brand, so to speak.
Yeah, but it's that political thing. What did you really like about the brand?
I just always been a Chrysler guy. Liked what they did. It was always something different. Mm-hmm. I don't got nothing against Chevy or Ford, but it just Chrysler was always kind of my go-to, and that's the way it was with my dad.
I always liked them because they kind of seem to be like, people have heard me say it almost unapologetically like about the horsepower, right?
Yeah.
Or performance. Even like, people would be like, Jeff, and I'm like, no, but seriously, think about what they did with like the PT Cruiser with a turbo, or the SRT4 Neon way back in the day, right? Or even back before that. Think about the front wheel drive cars from the late 80s, early 90s that were turbo, like the Lee Iacocca days. Like that was, it was something different within the domestic trio, right? And I always thought that just like people used to say, well, they used to build really ugly cars and paint them funny colors. But I mean, when you look at the Challengers and the Chargers, and I can still remember the first 300C I drove, the rear wheel drive, like that LX car when it came out, I was like absolutely floored with how cool that was.
Yeah.
They're building a V8 Hemi rear wheel drive, kind of a throwback to what some of us in a certain generation have maybe grown up riding around in the back of, right? And there's this 4-door sedan with a V8 that has that feel still of like, a rear wheel drive, kick the ass into kind of car. And I just thought it was really cool. And then the trucks for me, I say it all the time, like you drive back in the day, especially when the Hemi first hit, you drove a Hemi truck and then you drove anything else and it just didn't feel the same. Like the pedal, the throttle response was so much different, better. I grew up in a house of Chevrolet. Like you didn't park anything but that in the driveway. When I went to the dealer and started driving those trucks, I was like, yeah, okay, I get it now. Because they had weird, wonky stuff, right? And I mean, Caravans were Caravans, but they were a cool little car. Like I look at a Neon and then I look at a Cavalier, and I'm like, what's the real? Why does everybody say so? One is so much better than the other? They both had head gasket problems. They both, at least the Cavalier for longer you could get a 2-door. I always thought that kind of killed the Neon, was making it only a 4-door car. That was, to me, was stupid.
Yeah, they originally had the 2-door, but it didn't last.
Yeah, and I remember seeing one American Club Racer ACR Neon, the 2-door, which was a really cool, because that had manual steering and just twin cam stick, like upgraded everything. It was just a really cool little car, but they didn't sell a lot, and I thought that's pretty neat. That they were still thinking about that in early 2000s, whereas everybody was just like in a completely different thing. Now I'm not talking about the Asian market, right? But Ford I didn't feel had anything that compared to that. An Escort, in my opinion, didn't compare to a Neon.
No.
So what? Your dad was a tech.
Yes.
Yeah. So is that kind of why you picked this, or it just became natural?
Yeah, I did. Like growing up, I'd always pay attention to what he did, and like he'd go to class, come back, I'd read the books. Just
right.
I just had that yearning to learn and just kind of wanted to do it.
And was he a dealer tech? You said he worked there?
Yeah, okay. He worked at Chrysler store for 35 years.
Wow. Good.
He did drivability and automatic transmissions. Yeah. Like the 604s he was good at and all that.
So he would have been a pretty important person in the dealership then. He would have been one of their, their kind of top talent kind of people. Yeah. That's a good influence to have on you, right? As a young technician. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, he loved the brand too, I'm going to assume.
Oh yeah. That's all he drove and owned. And then after he got done with it, he started driving other stuff, and I'd have to fix it for him. But yeah. But he's still a Chrysler guy at heart.
Yeah. Is he still with you?
No, he's retired. He lives about 80 miles from me now.
Okay. But you still have life. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, I worked with him for 10 years and I enjoyed it, but it was one of them deals. I want to see what else was out there. Mm-hmm. And so I went to another Chrysler dealer on my own, and luckily I had another good tech to work with that I'm still friends with.
Yeah.
And I moved up, moved about 80 miles away. And like I said, I worked for about 3 other Chrysler dealers. And it just, like I said, this last one, it just kind of got to the point, the typical politics and scraping and clawing to make flat rate.
Yeah.
The Pacifica side curtain airbags, what did me in.
Mm-hmm.
They only paid 1.8 for the recall, but it was 4 hours under regular warranty pay.
Yeah.
And 6 hours under customer pay.
Yeah. Which all of a sudden there's no more customer pay ones ever.
Yeah. And, you get the young guys that, I can make that time. It's like, well, go ahead. I'm not going to work 100 mile an hour and suffer quality for it.
Well, and that's it. Think about, and again, so I've never done one, so I couldn't tell you the steps, but I mean, anytime, like from my experience with side curtain, you're up into around the headliner type area, right? And that's something that I always never thought should be rushed, because people, when they start, especially when you start talking about a recall, they get like super methodical about how they inspect their headliner, and it could have all the fingerprints and scratches in it before you did the recall, but you'll be buying them a headliner. And then, like, think about how a lot of us, 1 minute you're doing a weight or oil change, and then you do a recall and you get a fingerprint on it, right? And then people are set. Like,
and those are real particular, because where the rear AC controls are in the headliner, there's some mean metal clips, and it's a 2-man job, and just carefully bring it down. Yeah, you don't want to crease it.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. And again, I mean, I can remember way back in a day doing all the clock spring recalls like you probably can. And I can remember, the impact sensors on the front bumper on the Caravans. Like you probably did a pile of them. That was in the connector that went with it. And I mean, that was all I can remember doing. I can remember doing seat weight sensors in the LX cars when they first came out. Like, I touched a lot of it from the airbag side. OCMs, there were splices on the floor pan I used to fix on the Caravans that would cause the OCM to go offline, like all that kind of stuff. Because up here, we would get so much salt in our harness from like water. And it would those stupid splices that were taped with like tape and not even heat shrink.
Right.
Those do funny things, right? It was the weirdest thing. But the idea that and I did again a ton of Takata airbag recalls for Nissan. But the idea that they go from it used to be 6 hours down to less than 1/3. To me, it's just, we talk about why technicians will dealer people, especially talk about why, what's his name? Farley's famous quote. Well, I got.
Oh, yeah.
Like they wonder why, and they shouldn't have to wonder. They do it to themselves. It shouldn't be any kind of mystery as to why technicians won't pick the job. And it could be like, and everybody goes, well, it's just one job. Yeah, but when those recalls get released, sometimes you'll get 2-3 of them in a day. And then think about that. It used to be you would have made 18 hours and now you make 6.
Right.
Of course, it's going to kill your morale, Like it's just a given. All these things, and then everybody's like that legislation. I don't know. Do they have it in Kansas, Eric?
No, they don't, because we're a right to work state, so we don't have that.
And I don't think that's in. People love that idea. So what we're talking about, people, is the idea that like in some states, I think it's Detroit, California, whatever.
Illinois is one of them.
Whatever is supposed to pay retail is what they're by law. They're not allowed to change it. There is no warranty time, and everybody goes, "Oh, that's so much better for the technicians." Sure, it is. You're right, it is. But here's the reality of it. We're talking labor op type jobs, right? If you're still into the problem solving, every car problem is a one-off until you find it, you're still losing your butt. And it doesn't really matter because warranty's only got, if they say, well, there's every wiring problem can be solved in 2 hours and that's all they're going to pay. That legislation doesn't really help you, is my argument back to them. I think it's a step in the right direction. But, there's that holdout of technicians that are like, I want flat rate no matter what. Well, most of the guys that I talk to that want that, they're not tackling a ton of diag. Now I know I'm going to get a lot of comments and a lot of hate for that, but that's a very real reality. I mean,
Well, and also I don't see manufacturers sitting there idling by watching having to pay out that stuff. Mm-hmm. That I look for them to possibly buy into those labor guide because I've noticed with all data, some of the times are starting to come down a little bit.
And yeah, we saw that that conversation pop up and again, and everybody I think is in it. It's a pretty cruel, disgusting thing that they would do then if that's how, how much they'll invest and focus on backroom deals to make that happen instead of just building the friggin' stuff properly so that it doesn't have to be recalled. Yeah. You know what I mean, like that would be the way better way to do it. I tell people all the time, I remind them, like, the OE doesn't tell the dealer that they have to pay you flat rate. Nowhere does the OE tell them, send it down, that's how they must pay. It's just like a warranty. It's a warranty job. It's just like an estimate for a body shop for their insurance. They say we're only going to pay this amount of labor to do the repair on the car. No big deal. Cool. But when you go over, it's not the OE that's not paying you the time. It's your person that you work for. It's your employer that's choosing not to pay you that.
Right.
And you'll hear the argument, well, they can't, the money's not there. Okay. The money is there, people. They want to buy a second dealer, a third dealer, a fifth dealer, whatever, instead of paying you for it. So you have to draw the line in the sand and decide what is my limit on what I'm going to actually believe on that, and if the job should take you 10 and you go 20 repeatedly, it might be a you problem, right?
Yeah.
But if we can hit that recall time and do it without damaging something or having to come back or really making it look hacky, who's to blame? Well, at some point, then I blame it back on the people that own the dealer, because they could have a very real conversation with the people and say, I realize that it's only going to pay 1.8. This is the way we want it turned out, and we're going to pay you for it, because we feel that it's not your fault that the time got slashed because of their defect. But nobody's willing to have those kind of conversations. And that's where, I guess, for me, and I'm the same as you, I got tired of it. Like, and it wasn't a situation of a warranty job that irked me. It was the way, advisors would just expect you to do things for free. Service manager would expect you to, I'll make it up on the next one.
Yeah, that car never shows up.
Or it goes to the wrong tech. It gets dispatched to the guy across the bay from you.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't see those notes in there. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't know it was you that worked on it. Yeah, I looked at it.
You're like, you friggin' jerk. I've got the part, the plate number written in my logbook. Did you keep a notebook like I did?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Kind of a key important thing. I tell a lot of young techs, I kept, at first what I would do is, if it was somebody's comeback, I'd photocopy the original work order, or I'd print it out. And I kept that file, right? So I started to build my own file of cars that were problematic within our dealer. And when the cars were fixed, I had this file, this book of stuff that I'd solved and how I did it. And, but we all made a notebook of, like, at least our work order numbers and what the job was supposed to pay when we were done. And then if we did make one that had a lot of wrecks on it, we were told, yeah, they're going to reschedule. We made sure to write that all down, because otherwise because unfortunately, the amount of car count that was coming in sometimes, this, Eric, it does slip by the advisor. It just happens, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, they're human too. But processes in place should be, when the appointment's made, they should be able to pull the history, look at it, and go, okay, those wrecks were done by, text 11270. That was my old tech number. And it should be in the queue waiting for me to do, not like, oh, they're here and we got to give it to anybody. Like, that's not how that's supposed to work. So,
yeah.
What's, when you look back, what are some of the stuff that you really liked doing when you're at the dealer?
Of course, drivability. I liked electrical. Recalls when they used to pay good.
Did you go transmissions like your dad, or
no? I didn't. The dealer I was at with him didn't want to risk me going through a learning curve on it. I would do some transmission work, but not a rebuild.
Right.
Like just put a valve body in, or, maybe put a torque converter in, something like that, but not a complete rebuild. They had him for front wheel drive and another guy for rear wheel drive.
Okay.
Because we had such a big amount of transmissions coming in back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
My name's Arlene, and I'm with Car Doctors in Athens, Georgia.
Take two.
My name's Arlene, and I'm a service advisor at Car Doctors here in Athens. TechMetric looks very, very good and presentable to the customers, because it allows us to actually answer their concerns, bundle everything up for them. I can send them an inspection report. They can visually see what we're seeing, and then I can send the estimates as well, so they can see exactly what we're quoting, why we're quoting it, how much everything is. And then I'm also using it to communicate with my technicians. They'll leave me notes, I leave them notes. Everything is all bundled together in one sweet little package. Makes it very convenient and less time consuming, honestly.
They were pretty problematic back in the day, for sure. I mean, which, kind of a lot of people's, it's not that they were the only people with transmission issues. I can remember my buddy at the same time, Nissan had an extended campaign where they were going in and changing, because it wouldn't go in reverse when it was cold. And they were every tech in the building was doing that at his dealer anyway. They could all do it. And I'm thinking, so that's like, but they had it down to a science where it was like they knew when it came in, this is just the parts you put in. It seemed with Chrysler, like it didn't matter what the complaint was. They all seemed to get like a full overhaul.
Yeah.
When they were out of warranty, and when they were within warranty, they only seemed to get like one set of clutches or, maybe a valve body, like you said. And we would see these keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And it's like, why are we putting a valve body in when it's, obviously a slip in overdrive, which we knew on the trucks why that was happening, right? Those little cooler lines would burn out the planetary for the overdrive, right? Like it was just.
Well, I remember Dad getting frustrated. He'd build one back when they didn't have good programming, and it would just destroy him. He said, I built it. It's going to come back. And then finally Chrysler realized, change the software and you put a TCM in them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can remember I saw more than one come in before they had a separate TCM, and they would have rebuild. This is like front wheel drive car, like say the old Shadows, the kind of and they'd have like new overdrives in them, and they'd be back in limp again. And they're like, it was just overhauled. Why would it be in limp? It'd be a wiring problem, right? Like it was, and so that was always really, it was weird to me because it was like trying to get them sometimes, how it is to act up intermittently before you can say, yes, okay, it's an electrical problem, or yes, it's needs an overhaul. Like you and I remember the input and output speed sensors that would go bad all the time, but that became pretty straightforward. Like you just
the 99 2000, yep.
And that got to be where it was like everybody could diagnose that. But if you had one like in limp or not communicating, then it was like kicked to somebody a little more, specialized, or that wiring harness going to the valve, not the valve body, the block that sat on top of the transmission.
Solenoid packs
that used to leak, and like we all did solenoid packs, all of us.
Oh yeah.
But I can remember after you do the solenoid pack, half of them would come back with this weird electrical problem. It's because you just disturbed that harness that wasn't secured very well, and all of a sudden now you're tearing that sucker open again, right?
Or I had a lot of round pin terminals on input. Well, vehicle speed sensor when they used to put them on there. And I had a Dynasty. When the speedometer quit working, listen for the door locks to kick in. If it didn't, it's out there. If they did, you had a speedo head.
Very cool.
Yep.
I'm old enough too. I can remember when, you used to get like a speed sensor fault, and you'd take it out, and they didn't give you a new gear. You took the old gear off the old one, put it back in, and it was like same sensor and a whole bunch of different gears, right? A little plastic gear. I can remember more than one guy going, my speedo's not working. I'm like, did you put the gear? And he's like, oh shoot, it's sitting on the old part right on my bench. Like you get rushed, right? You forget to put the gear.
Oh yeah.
It was funny that way. I enjoyed the product. Like I really did. I loved Caravans. I didn't do a lot of neon head gaskets.
I did a bunch of them.
Yeah. Probably pretty quick at them, eh?
Oh yeah. It got frustrating in the beginning, all the different design changes, and when they went to MLS, that took care of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the thing. Like everybody's like, oh, it's leaking again. I'm like, we'd see them and they didn't always leak again. Like it wasn't, that gasket seemed to fix a lot of the problems. You'd see the rear main leak a lot after that. We know why that happened. Guys would pound the balancer on, right? Instead of pressing it on.
Yep.
Beat the thrust bearing right out. But, I can remember the 2.7 being when they first rolled, how big a turd they were if they weren't if they weren't.
Oh yeah. The
maintenance wasn't done, but a 2.7 chain job in a Sebring was probably the worst job that I ever did. Like I hated that.
Yeah, I did a few of them. I didn't care for it.
And the PT Cruiser timing belt, I never liked that either. I know guys do them and they like it, but I hated it. You thought you were going to break something. You had to jack that sucker up so high to, line your marks up that it was just like never again. So, and they were weird, right?
I just did power steering lines on a turbo cruiser a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, I don't miss them.
I still see them around, and I'm like, holy crap, people are still driving a PT Cruiser, eh? Like it just, I can remember when they first hit and in Detroit at probably it was a Chrysler building, how they had one looked like it was driving right out of the Chrysler building, right? Like, 100 stories up, and how they flocked to the dealer to buy that car and paid way above sticker because they wanted to have it.
Oh, yeah. That's the way the dealer I was at the time. It's like, that's insane. Now you can give them away.
And then you get in and you drive it, and it's like, it's not that appealing. Like, it's,
I did like you're sitting higher up in it, like compared to a car, but yeah.
Yeah. I had a good customer, a young lady. Well, she wouldn't be so young now. That the reason she hated everything else about the car, but she had some back issues, and it was the way the seat was. And like you said, the way you sat in the car, it was the most comfortable car for her she ever drove. So she threw good money after bad at that thing because she didn't want to get a car that would hurt her back,
Yeah, I had a few customers like that with them. That was the only small car they could drive.
Yeah. Yep. And the turbo ones were fun to drive, but I mean, I hated it was a blind spot, like, which every Chrysler comes with a free blind spot, at least one. And, but I hated the way they looked and sounded. That stupid, we called it the Watts link at the back that would hit on the axle when it was worn out. And,
yes. Start banging.
Yep. Control arm bushings like they were going out of style. Like, we just gross.
But I like the support Chrysler had back then for like training and tech advisors that actually knew what they were doing rather than just authorize you a parts replacement.
Yeah. Well, I can still, the phone number for Chrysler Techline used to have, like, you'd get a sticker and it was stuck on your work cabinet over 1-800-361-2702, right? And then you pumped in your dealer plate number and talked to somebody. And I still remember, and everybody's like, holy crap, Jeff, you must have called them a lot. I did. I worked for them 9 years. I did call them a lot. I didn't have to call them on every car, but it just became part of the routine that when it was like a month old and sitting there with some weird problem, you called them. Because I'm sure Eric, and experienced it. You'd be able to call them up and say, I got one doing this, but I can't get it to happen all the time. And they'd be like, yeah, we've had 5 cases of that. And, 3 technicians found this. Go check there. Now, I don't know what it's like now because it's been a long time since I've been at Chrysler. But now I know if it's anything like Nissan, you're not talking to people anymore. You're just
it's AI. The first response is AI generated, and they just regurgitate the book to you. Well, I can read the book.
That's right. Yeah. I remember you would talk to them and you'd call them up. And my buddy Mike is better at remembering their names because he went to training with a lot of them up here in the Canadian side. And it was like, they would say, oh, you check the wiring. Yeah, check the wiring. And then they'd say, how'd you check it? And you go, what do you mean, how'd I check it? Oh, well, like, how'd you check your powers? And then that's where the first, like, people started talking to me about, it was like part of their process was loaded power check, loaded ground. They'd say, go get yourself an old 904 bulb, and like, if it'll light up that, you need a fuel pump. They'd say stuff like that. And I'm just like, how come that's not in the book?
Yeah.
Like the guys at Techline all know. Why is it not? So what, so when you say the political thing, when you're talking about that particular recall was enough to kind of the final straw, I'll say, Eric, what did a typical day look like for you?
Well, I would get a lot of the, more diagnostic stuff, and the recall bit, once we had a guy start bragging he could make that time, then they started pushing them over to him. But I finally got tired of warranty not getting paid properly for tickets because they had an outside firm doing it.
Really?
And then they like the younger guys because, like, a friend of mine still works there. He's got 3 years left to go, and he's going to retire for good.
LaunchTech USA has established itself as a trusted leader in automotive diagnostics and aftermarket solutions by delivering cutting-edge technology and reliable support to the North American market. Driven by a deep understanding of today's repair environment, LaunchTech USA develops solutions designed specifically for the growing demands of modern vehicles and professional technicians alike. Each year, LaunchTech USA introduces new innovative products designed to work with the latest advancements in vehicle systems, diagnostics, and repair demands. From advanced diagnostic scanners to ADAS calibration, alignment, and next-generation solutions, every LaunchTech USA product is engineered with purpose, built for accuracy, efficiency, and real-world performance in today's professional shops. Our commitment to innovation is unwavering. Focus drives our precision. Innovation fuels our progress. Together, they set us apart. LaunchTech USA is driving the future of automotive diagnostics. To find out more about LaunchTech USA, visit our website at www.launchTechUSA.com. Tell them the JD Mechanic sent you.
And he's been a Chrysler tech all of his life, and he's just hanging in there. And I told him, I said, I'm 50 years old.
Yeah.
It's time to do it or I never will.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the service manager not holding anybody accountable, that typical stuff. But I enjoyed working next to my friend, because we would help each other out, and that was the only thing really worthwhile. The first couple of years there at that dealership were nice. And then they started adding more and more people. Well, we'll drive the total shop count up. And that brings individuals down.
Yeah, for sure. And, I've talked lots. There was a core group of us, like 4 of us, that got a lot of the diag and drivability dispatched to us, right? So we're very good at sharing and helping one another, right? Because that's just the only way you're going to survive it, is if you see somebody comes over, your baymate, right, and says, "Hey, did you not have this last week?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly." And you walk over and pull the carpet up and say, "See that right there? That's what mine was," right? Or I can still remember when the tip-ems got bad and the wiring connected underneath the tip-em, like it was bad. Front control modules on the old Caravans, like, we all had a known good front control module, and the first thing you did was just take the 4 screws out, swap it, cycle your key, see what it changed. If it didn't change anything else, then you unbolted the box, plugged the new box in. You probably, when you turned your box over, saw the corrosion coming out of it, and you just changed it. And then you proceeded on with your day, and you do that 3-4 times a day. I liked it because it was just enough of a variety to keep me interested, but it was like you could kind of come in, and if you were having, an off day, you could skate by, and there was always enough good work on the cars that you could make a good living. Like I never was 100 an hour, every 2 weeks kind of guy. I was always a 40 to 50 guy, consistent.
Yeah, that's what I've always been.
The guys that say they make 100, I never saw anybody at Chrysler hit 100 in a week. I heard about a guy that, to say that he wasn't doing the work would be, would be saying it too nicely. He was really bad for not doing the whole ticket, I guess is the right way to say it.
Yeah. The highest I ever hit was about 85 a week, and that was when I was doing 12-hour days in the shop.
Yes.
And I was living in there, and I was like, that's enough of that. There's more to life than this.
And I would do that a lot too, and I would do it same as probably you had to, sometimes just to catch up to where the other guys were, because, right, like if you're doing the diag under warranty, maybe the best you could get would be straight time. Like the retail diag, once you knew the pattern failures, was pretty good. And a lot of customers, like if it wasn't a pattern failure, it was something weird, they got scared away right away with like the 3 hours to start, and that was hard for an advisor back then. I can remember when the door rate was 110, and it was really hard for the advisor to sell, 2 hours of diag to start. Like 2 hours of diag, like that's crazy. Like can't sell that. And I'm like, this thing only acts up every 2 weeks, and you have to hit a certain bump in the road and to get it to happen. Like you're going to need at least 2 hours to duplicate.
Yeah. That. Or you got to tear down something to get where you need to be.
Oh, and that was the thing. Do you remember when some of the Caravans, and you probably remember the 3.5s more so, and the Magnums and the LX cars, but the valves would burn and they would hit. Yeah. I remember that. And it was like the first, because, The Caravans would do it too, the 3.3s and the 3.8s, but not as common. But until they came to the Pentastar, and then valves were big. But I can remember the first Magnum I had that had that misfire that would sometimes be there and sometimes wouldn't be. And I remember tearing that down, and I was like, look at this. This is crazy. Like, you wouldn't think in a modern car that it would get pitted valves like that. But it was just, the way they drove them. I used to say it was always a Magnum because just that extra weight that the 300 didn't have, they got into the throttle even less. And then for the people that aren't familiar, they revised the valve, the keepers, so that the valves would rotate a little more and keep the carbon from burning the valve. But I remember the first couple I did, I was like, this is, because they would come back, somebody else tuned it up and it was still multiple cylinder misfire, and you'd sit there and look at your dad and it'd be jumping all over, but your fuel trims would be perfect. You're like, what's going on? And it wouldn't show up always on a vacuum gauge. That's just, everybody's like, oh, a vacuum gauge would have showed you that. Nope, not always.
I got in the habit of watching the misfire counter. If it clocked at an idle and quit above it, usually your valve was junk.
And that still holds so true, right? Even now on the Pentastar, you see guys posting and they're like, I got, this miss at idle. And it's like, miss at idle on a Chrysler is a valve. You know, it could be the other, an injector, but it's 98% of the time it's a valve. Don't overthink this. Like, find another way to go in and check it. Like, and back in the day, you couldn't buy a Borescope the way you could now for the price, right? You can remember an expensive tool, and now every technician, I'd argue, probably that does any kind of diagnostics got at least one, and it makes that a lot easier. When I think about the ones that trip me up, that if I'd had a working Borescope, I could have just jammed down in the hole and known in 2 seconds. Yeah, very valuable tool.
Or lab scope relative compression nowadays. That's a game changer.
Well, and do you remember the DRB3?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the lab scope kit that came with it?
Oh, yes, I used it a few times.
See, I watched one guy in my whole career that actually know how to set that up and use it, which was incredible to me. But he had been at a dealer. Colin was his name. He'd been at a dealer that was straight time. So Colin learned how to use it, and he still didn't have to pull it out a lot of the time to use it, but he was the only one that I'd seen. And I can remember it was like all the other guys that had been in the dealer, like as long as him, but a different dealer, are like, what are you doing? And they're coming over and asking all these questions. And I'm like, I was so green, I didn't even know what an oscilloscope was. And now when I think about how much we do with an oscilloscope now, it's amazing to me that the dealers haven't embraced that, in the sense that they make it an essential tool and tell you to use it, but they're not paying the techs to use it. And they're still not training them. Yeah.
Yeah, because they supply a Pico now, but they don't pay you very well to use it.
No.
I think I've only looked at a couple of cars ever with it, just because why wouldn't you're not going to get paid for it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And what it is. Like we know, I can remember when the the Caravans had issues with the coils. And I can remember when, the PT Cruiser and the Neon, that generation, had issues with spark plug boots and the ignition wires. Like, you could drive it and you knew what you're feeling, you knew what it was. Come back and write your estimate, right? And it just became, until the Pentastar came along, I always felt they were pretty simple to diagnose. And then, not that the Pentastar is hard, but the Pentastar is hard from the sense of you're always kind of, in the dealer, I think, maybe you can confirm, you're always kind of patching that thing together unless you do it the right way. You know what I mean? Because they're so
and different diagnostics, like variable cam timing. The early ones had the phaser knock.
Yeah.
Then you got the oil pump ones. The cylinder head, I liked them. I actually did pretty good with those.
Mm-hmm.
Pull them with the timing cover still on there and slam it in there.
My buddy, he loves them. He'll do one a day. Yeah. Sometimes he'll start at 8 in the morning. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. It's running again, and he took a 30-minute break for lunch. He's fast at them, but he's done well into the hundreds of them at this point, right? Whether it's the gas, the cam, or he's just. And then you see now, I don't know if you've seen the guys when they're doing the cams, they're leaving the chain right on, and they're backing the cam off the phaser,
Yeah, because the chain won't fall due to the way the timing cover is designed.
Yeah.
Which I think that's cool.
Right? But it's like, at first when I bought my Jeep, I was like, oh, you hear all these problems with Pentastar, right? And then it's like, once you start talking to some guys in the know, they're like, no. What are you talking about? I do all the lifters in like 2 hours. I'm like, how do you do all that? And they're like, oh, well, I just lift it up and cheat and slide it out and all that.
Yeah.
I love mine. Mine's been so good to me. Every Jeep, every Chrysler I've ever had, honestly, has been good to me. Really.
Yeah.
Like I had an 86 600
Oh, yeah.
car. Love that little thing, little 2-door car. 91 LeBaron Turbo. Love that car. After that, it was all Jeep. After that,
I got a 4-liter Jeep. That's enough.
Yeah,
yeah.
I see they rot so bad up here now, right? Like you see them once in a while. I saw one the other day, and it was in good shape. And once in a while, you see one pop up in Facebook Marketplace, and they want like $5,000, and it's not rusted, and it's low mileage. And I'm like, I'm almost tempted to go buy that, and I'm like, for what? Like to get worse fuel mileage than my 3.6 gets, right? Like yes, it's way easier to fix. But I mean, I 2 of my Cherokees I did head gaskets in. Like the 4-liter would get a head gasket problem if you drove it long enough. Now I'm talking like both up over 300,000 kilometers, so well up over 200,000 miles when it happens.
Yeah.
But such an easy one to do too, right? Like I saw one 4-liter failed terminally ever in all my years at Chrysler, and that had a window in the block. They punched a hole right through it. And he punched a hole right through it because he treated it like a submarine.
Oh, yeah.
And water, and then they drug it up on the bank and didn't pull the plugs and just started cranking her over, and how that goes.
Yeah,
but otherwise,
compressed liquid.
we never saw them come in for bearing issues in the bottom end or cranks or nothing. No. They just head gaskets and valves, and that was it. Noisy lifters once in a while. They were great. That 4-liter. When they when they brought the 3.7 and the Liberty, it was like we knew it was not long for this world for the Cherokee. We're like, this is such a letdown compared to Cherokee. Like it was such a letdown. So,
but yeah, the 3.6 they got their problems, but I think maintenance is a big deal because I got a friend that's got a Charger with 300K on it, no rocker arm issues. He changes his oil religiously, does the maintenance. Yeah, he's put an oil pump in it. That's about the only major thing he's done.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a 15, so I don't even know. God, I can't remember if it's got that variable output oil pump in it or not.
They all do.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, but I've had no issues with it, no faults, no nothing, no codes, I just change my oil every 3,000 miles, Pennzoil Platinum and zero issues, zero noises, zero check engine light, like none of that. It's all good. I got a check engine light for thermostat being bad, but I mean, what Pentastar doesn't need?
Yeah, and that's a piece of cake.
Did you
if you can find one?
Yeah, that's back order day. Did you get into the diesel stuff, Eric?
Very little. When I moved away from the dealer I was at with Dad, I got into them a little bit because the place I was at with him, we had a separate truck shop.
Okay.
And they did all the diesel work. I only might program one or do a fuel filter, but other than that, I've changed an injector here and there, but I'm not real strong in diesel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Replaced a few eco diesels.
Oh, they were a turd. Oh my God.
Grand Cherokee was actually easier than I thought it was going to be doing one of them.
Yeah.
Drop it out the bottom.
I can remember when that Mercedes first hit in the Grand Cherokees, and they were showing us how if you had one that was like 5 years old and you needed to put a lawn block in it, you exceeded the value of the car, the Grand Cherokee, by just buying the engine. Just buying the part exceeded the value before you ever even paid for labor. It was ridiculous. And I felt bad for the people that bought them because they were turds. And then they, of course, that engine hangs in there right in until Stellantis comes along. And it's like, how did that engine that was such a turd last so long? I mean, I can remember guys are trying to figure out how to take one out of a Sprinter and make it work in a Grand Cherokee because there's a lot of different parts that go into it. But essentially, it's like, oh, it's the same block. Yeah, but there's a lot of things that change to make it work in a Sprinter versus working in a Grand Cherokee. But like anything else, somebody found out something, figured out a way. That crank reluctor on the back of them, that was
yes.
That was a brilliant design.
Yeah, I did a few of them. And then remember Jeep Liberty Diesel?
Yes. Oh, frig.
Worked on a few of them.
That stupid EGR valve, which, it had an EGR valve, and it was just like, and what a turd that thing was. In theory, very cool, right? And I know I talked to guys way back in the day that were like, in Europe, they sold really well, and people loved them. And it would have been, if it hadn't had like everything else, if it hadn't had the emissions crap on it that we had to run here, like you could sell them like they're going out of style. Like it would have been an amazing little car, like a little SUV. But no, of course, we had to use that, and I can remember EGR and turbo problems, and I can remember software updates that were supposedly going to fix it, and it was just junk.
Yeah,
ball joint recall paid good. I like doing that. Yeah, but same with the Dakota upper ball joint recall. That was a great recall.
Yeah, love those.
Yeah, paid well. Hands from the air hammer when I think about it, but I mean, it paid good. God, what else, man?
Rollover valves on Ram trucks. I love that recall. I do them out in the parking lot.
Yeah, I didn't get to do one of those. I remember, God, we go back to the PT Cruiser, that one where you would drop the fuel tank and put the foam on top of the
Yes. So sop up the fuel leak.
That paid well.
Yeah.
I can remember the Caravans when they still had a fuel filter. Those paid really good. They were so easy to do. It was they weren't hard to make money on, man. EGR valves on Caravans when they first came out, like they were.
Oh yeah.
You diagnosed that in the parking lot, right? Like it was never, everybody jokes, but it was never anything but the valve. It always was the valve.
Yeah.
Never saw it be anything but. And it would really trip you up when it wasn't like you didn't have a code for it, but it was doing other things. I remember I had one, and it was like it would throw a map sensor fault and intermittently should say I have no throttle. And I'm coming in, I'm looking at map sensor, and then of course the light bulb, and you're like, oh, dumbass. It's the EGR valve, right? But first one I ever did where I blocked off the flow, right? Make a gasket, stop the EGR from flowing, and drive it. Holy crap! Do they ever ping without an EGR valve?
Yep.
Like it was like you didn't think a modern car would still rely on it that much, but holy crap! I can just remember just off idle, it sounded like gravel in a coffee can. Like it was crazy, man. But
I remember when 5259 Rams, when they did away with the EGR in 98, how they had pinging and you had to reroute the plug wires and all that crap.
Do you remember and then the intake plenum gasket would blow out?
Did a lot of them.
That was a gravy job. I loved the job.
Put a steel one in it with new bolts and send it down the road.
And I still remember the first customer that I saw one that I had to do. We'd done an oil change on it. Not me. It had been done on our drive-through because we had a time at a quick lube. And he was gone 3 weeks, and he come back in, and the engine was like ticking away. And he's like, "You guys didn't put any oil in my engine." And we're like, "Come on, it's in the drive-through. Like, we had it on camera. You can see the guy pouring. Well, there's no oil in dipstick. Sure enough, no oil in dipstick." We're like, and I remember they looked that car over, that truck, for like, where did the oil go? Of course, you call Techline. They're like, pull the throttle body off. Shine a light down in there and see. And sure enough, oil right up in that intake, And you're like, oh, that's what. And then, of course, it comes back for a cat fault later, right? But it burned. But once you got those, man, they were such a good paying job. That was the best way to do the tune up for the cab and rotor.
Oh, yeah.
You already had it off, just do it at the same time,
Yep. But no, like now, like the Hurricane engine. Oh, I've done some phasers.
Yeah.
Thermostats are a big issue with them on the straight six.
Yeah.
They run a little door that moves, and it's piggyback to the water pump. So you got to take the water pump out to do it.
Of course.
Yeah, done a bunch of them, and that's one of them. Yeah, I lose my ass on every one of them, but I'd rather do that than, tear myself up or whatever.
Yeah.
Suck the AC down so you take the compressor completely out, and then you got your air ride tank, because usually they were Wagoneers that had that problem.
Yeah, that's a turd, the Wagoneer.
I mean, the Hurricane runs good, the numbers, but it's not as service friendly as a Hemi.
No. And I've talked to more than one diehard Chrysler guy, and he's like, why couldn't they just brought the 4-liter back to stick in that thing? And it's like, well, because we'll never meet the emissions that, that thing is supposed to be able to do. But when you think about inlines, like that was just like the 2.5 and the 4-liter were the best inline I ever saw. Maybe you could argue the old Slant 6 was better, but nah, I would say no. That 4-liter, the 2.5 always ran rough, the inline a little, because never designed to be that way. But that 4-liter was just so bulletproof. It was so simple.
Oh, so and they run forever. The 3-liter, they're smooth, they sound refined, but you're just asking an awful lot out of a small, like the 2-liter Evo engine now. They run great, but you got to run the right oil, and that's usually what happens with them, and they'll start scoring cylinder walls and get a cold engine noise.
Mm-hmm. Do you touch any of the hybrid or EV stuff when you were there?
Yes. Yep, I've done some battery packs, a lot of heaters, battery heaters. Yep. Yeah, they'll fail. I
see up here a lot more of the 4xe Wranglers. The hybrid. I'm just like, thank God I don't have one of them, because it'd be cool to get some mileage back.
A little bit.
I don't want to buy it when it's broken. I don't want to fix it when it's broken.
No, I had to do a battery pack on one shortly before I left the dealer, and you take the straps off the door. They tell you take the rear doors out. I just fold them forward, and you take a cherry picker and pull them out.
Yeah,
because it's just so heavy.
Yeah, it would be, for sure. I mean, I like the idea that they put it there instead of putting it on the bottom of the car, where it's a lot more, I think that's something that maybe we need to start thinking about when we're building these modern EVs and whatnot, is that we maybe think about getting the battery pack up a little bit farther away from the ground. Sherwood at Royalty just did a video on a Camry hybrid that the customer had hit something on the road, and it punctured the fuel tank. And how it didn't puncture the battery pack, I don't know, because it caused a leak in the transmission. Like, they wrote the car off $15,000. But like, I've seen it, I've talked about that Hyundai Iconic that was made the headlines here. Customer drove over something, caused a strike to the battery. They went to the dealer, they checked it, they condemned the car, wrote it off because the battery pack was going to cost more than the car was worth.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's not that's not progress. So
no, and then nobody's really rebuilding those batteries, so they're just stacking up somewhere.
Yeah. Have you seen the BYD cars that we talk about?
No, I've read about them, but that's about it.
Pretty impressive little car. Yeah, I think
you can buy them up there, can't you?
Well,
or not yet.
I think we're going to be like the first out of the gate with them. I have a feeling, because of some of the backroom deals that my government has done up here. They've kind of made it very easy for them to get here. Now, I don't know if they're going to be here by 27, but probably by 28, they're going to be here. And then, I've had people talk that, like, I had a guest on, he'd been to Vietnam on a trip and drove them. And he says, like, you're just amazed at how that car performs for the price of it. Now, that being said, without the product support, and it's such a cheap car, I'm scared in 6-7 years, we're going to have a bunch of them sitting around in our, land waste yards, landfills, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
With batteries that nobody wants, or not fixing. And then does it really
hazardous waste?
Yeah. Does it really serve our purpose? What did, kind of share with me when you left the dealer, what did they say? What did they think? Did they care at all? Did they say
Nope.
anything? Nothing.
I said today's my last day, and because I didn't give them any notice because I wanted to keep my benefits intact because I knew they'd kick them out from under me.
Right.
And the service manager goes, "Oh, okay." And then that was a Friday night. So then Saturday morning I came in to get my toolbox and all that, and he only wanted to go through like 4 drawers. Usually I don't allow that because legally they can't, but just to get out of there, he goes, "I don't know what I'm looking for." And I said, "All right." And he goes, "You got anything at the shop?" I said, "Oh yeah, I got 2 rolls of toilet paper."
Got some coffee cups. Yeah.
Well, my locker, I keep an extra roll of toilet paper and paper towels because in the bathroom I forget to restock. Mm-hmm. Well, I get salesmen raid my locker. And so I got to the point I put in my tool cart. But no, he didn't care. And then that Saturday, the general manager crossed paths me in the parking lot, and he just said, "Well, we'll see you later. I mean, no, what can we do, to keep you? Yeah. What's the problem?" Yep.
And so how long have you been at that dealer?
4 years.
4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I was at two Chrysler dealers for 10 years apiece. And then I was at one for a year and a half just because it went out of business. Mm-hmm. And then I had another one for a couple of years. Because the one that was at for 10 got bought out, and I stuck around for 2 years.
Now, Eric, when they, when you we joke, but it's kind of sad at the same time, when they don't do anything or say much when they know you're leaving, do you think it's because they've just kind of accepted that they can't do anything about making it better? Or do you think it's they're still holding out, that they don't want to?
I think it's a matter they don't know what to do. The service manager knows he's only limited by the general manager, and the general manager, he don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
He just sees it as you're being ungrateful for not wanting to work for him anymore. And that's not it. I mean, it's just a matter of, hey, and I've told him, I've had meetings with him about, what's going on in that shop, and mm-hmm. Then he spins it on me.
Yeah.
Well, like hours. Well, you need to upsell. Well, that works to an extent, but you're going to scare customers off or make them mad.
Yeah. And again, I see all these guys, the content creators and stuff, and even, the non-content creators that are talking about the DVI process and all that, and how it's such a powerful tool. It is. But you and I know you can do a one hell of a DVI at the dealer, absolutely stellar. And they then have an estimate, if we follow that 300% rule in this video, and it goes to a shop with a door rate that's $20 less and say way cheaper parts, and all that work gets done there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's, so for me, we knew, you started to know by looking at the history, because I'm sure you're like me. You look at the history on almost most of the cars you're working on, and you start to see it right in their, I called it a profile, that all the wrecks went somewhere else. It came in with, brakes on it from Midas and all that jazz, and they were shopping around for trying to save $100 or $50 back in the day. And I get it and I understand it, but when all of a sudden we keep saying now, all you dealer techs have got to do this DVI, when we used to just do an MPI and used to pencil whip it because you were looking at your history to see what was due and what was done. We're in a lot of ways, all we're doing is wasting people's time, and we're prepping these amazing estimates that are going to our competition and getting the work done.
Yeah.
Because.
And then I also had problems with service advisors dropping the ball and not sending it onward either. That was kind of just as much of a problem. Because you go up there, hey, did you run it through? Oh, I forgot. Or they don't want to do it anyways, and we'll try.
Yeah, how do they not know that, And I mean, they know. It's not a case that they don't know. But you've heard me, in some of my past episodes, and I talk all the time about, like, there's so many places that don't hold the advisor to the same level of expectation that they hold the tech. Like, they say to the tech, you got to upsell more. You got to find more hours. You got to hustle more. But we know there's certain advisors that, like, are underperforming every month because they don't want to have, the hard conversations. They don't have the knack for it. They're not that motivated. And then all of a sudden they're part of the interior makeup of the dealer after 2 years, because, like, they've been underperforming for 2 years and they're still there. And then people are like, oh, I can't get rid of them now because they have a client base, and maybe they get a couple CSI scores that made them look like they were great, which, again, if you did the repair for free, a lot of people just gave you a great fucking CSI, review because they didn't have to pay nothing. Didn't really matter, right? That's always the part that just yanked me around with the whole, lack of motivation from advisors, is because it's just terrible how some of them could be so mediocre.
Yeah.
And they kept their job.
I got a friend.
They kept getting the pay.
He's a really good one. He looks at it as, when he calls them up, only one of two things will happen. You're either going to fix it or you're not. There's no bargaining, no cutting it down, take it or leave it. And he's sold a lot of service work. Just don't take it personal.
Well, yeah, I think that's a big part of it, right? And this is not just in a dealer. This is any advisor, period. Don't take it personal, and realize that, like, if you set the precedence by saying, I can find $200 to remove from the bill this time, they're going to want at least $200 next time, and every time that, right? Whereas if you start out and it's just like, nope, unfortunately, Mrs. Smith, we can't do that. I'm already maxed out at what I can. If I found you all the overlap, all that, I got you're just opening up a can of worms by allowing them to drive the ship, because they're just going to continue to expect that. And then when you don't that one time and finally you got to knuckle down and say no, that's when they'll destroy you on a survey right there. It's because you always used to be able to give it to me and now you can't. It's going down the wrong way. And I joke about this, but I had an advisor who, like, he was not that motivated to sell, because his alimony check to his ex-wife would just go up exponentially if he started actually really pumping work out. And we're sitting here going, like, dude, that's a you problem. That ain't a me problem. Like,
don't take it out on us.
Give your ticket then to the other advisor, right? Like, that's who I want to handle it, because he was a shark. He just, like, that kind of stuff, and to be allowed to stay when that is their attitude, I just never understood that. That was daft to me, that they were, could perform like that. Not that he was a guy. I'm not saying that. It's just the directive was not there.
Well, and then like where I came from, the last place, you get a good one. Well, that other one's bad habits. They'll either quit or they just become the same person, and then you got two, horrible advisors to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was starting to happen when I was leaving. Was they had a really good one out of the gate, and her attitude just went downward. Like, oh no.
Now, who trained the advisors when they would come on? Like the senior advisor?
The service manager would train a little bit, and then he'd let them kind of fend for themselves.
Yeah. How did you think that worked?
Badly.
Yeah. I saw them take kids that we'd hired and we worked in the quick lube, so the drive up oil change bay, and if they were, like, polite and smiled at the customer, they'd make them a service writer in a very short. And I'm not talking like after a year. I'm talking like after 3 months. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, that's not the right thing to do, because last week they're changing oil and this week they're selling $4,000 transmission overhauls. Like, how do they learn to do that? Oh, sales is sales. Like, no, selling a $10 air filter isn't the same as selling a $4,000 transmission. It doesn't work like that.
I still think the less they know about, they need to know a little bit about cars, but not much. Because then you get the brainiac that wants to tell you what he thinks. And like, no, why are they here?
Yeah. And that's, did you see a lot of service writers that were, how do I say that? Maybe washouts as techs?
A few, not very many. I was an advisor for 4 months at the dealer I was with Dad. That's how I got into the company. They had no tech opening. And the owner goes, well, you might like it better than wrenching. And he gave me a 6-month trial run. I only made it 4 months. And he's seen the writing on the wall and put me on the line.
Yeah.
But, it was okay. We're still doing handwritten tickets, but I just didn't like it. The senior advisor I learned a lot from. He can get his butt chewed something fierce and let it roll off. He did it for so long. He could do it. And it just wasn't me. And the dealer owner knew that. And then I became a line tech.
Do you think that ability to let it just kind of roll off your back, do you think that's lost now as a, do I say skill? But I'm not so sure necessarily, Eric, the younger generation has got that ability.
I don't think so either. I mean, because I'm not going to knock them, but a lot of them want to feel special and don't want, they think, if a customer's getting mad at them, it's personal, and it's not. Like there was a young one there at the last place I was at. I had an old farmer. Well, he's in his mid-60s. And it would really tear him up. He never nailed him on a survey, but when he'd walk in the door, the guy go, hey, dude, what's up? Instead of, Bernie, how you doing today? Or, sir, how are you? And he'd come in the shop and talk to me and that friend of mine because he said, you three techs, there's another older one back there. He goes, that's the only reason why I come in here. I can't stand the rest of up there. And I said, yeah. But no formal, He said, I don't need to be, have my butt kissed, but, just a little formal.
Yeah. Hey, dude, what's up is probably not how you greet your customer. Maybe at the bar, if you're a bartender, I could see that working.
Yeah, but in a dealership or even just a repair shop, you really don't want to do that.
No. What other kind of qualities do you think make a good advisor?
Oh, be able to multitask. That was one thing we kind of ran into was we felt they'd take on enough work that they could handle, and it would hurt the shop because we weren't, we'd run out of work. They could only take on what they would. Yeah, multitask and just a good personality, a little bit of knowledge about cars, just a little. You don't need to be an expert on it.
Yeah, because I had an advisor that she told the customer that the coolant flush wasn't all that important because it doesn't really move that far through the car. However, she determined that to be, I don't know. I think she was comparing it to, I don't know, she thought like the engine oil was way more important, which you could make the argument. I think it probably would be, but like just how that got in her head that she was going to say something like that. I was just like, I'm standing there like trying not to like let the cat out of the bag that like you just, put a size 14 right in your mouth. Like you can't say stuff like
I had a few moments like that with advisors. You just stand there going, what?
Yeah, and again, it's not about knowing all the answers. It's about if you don't know the answer, like, okay, let me go talk to the resident expert professional, and he'll give me the answer, or she will give me the answer, or ask AI, or ask the advisor that's got more seniority next to you if they've ever. Just don't, and we would know a lot of the time, like some advisors, like, and again, because we're all flat rate, all 100% incentivized. you'd have them come out and say to the customer, like, oh, I know it says in the owner's manual, you should change your brake fluid now. But like, I've been driving this car I got in the parking lot and I've never changed it and I've never had a problem. Like, if you're my advisor and you say that, you'll be kicking your lunch pail down the road in front of you. Like, it's about what you do with your car. It's about, especially when the customer is asking the question, should I? The answer is, yeah. If the OE recommends it, yes. You should always at least do the minimum maintenance is what the OE recommends. There's worse, we've had that conversation. There's more maintenance that needs to be done sometimes than what even the OE is recommending. But like, you never talk them out of doing something. If you're talking them out of doing a repair because you don't think it's going to fix the car, then that's a bigger problem, which is probably then who was it dispatched to or that technician, all that kind of stuff. But never tell them that, no, they don't need to change a fluid because your own car, you've never done that.
Now, if it's a car with a ton of miles on, they want a transmission exchange or service, no. Leave it alone.
Yeah. As I was going to ask you, because like that's a hot button topic with some pretty big content creators lately. And it's like, you'll see, Sherwood talk about at Royalty, they will do it. But their process is very involved, more so than what a lot of us would spend, where it's like, it's evaluated pretty good before they agree to doing the service, because like, and they have that open conversation with the customer. This is not a guarantee this is going to fix it. And if it still has a shutter after we do the fluid in it, you're not getting your money back. This is a service that should have been done. We don't think we necessarily need to replace the torque converter yet, but the fluid is definitely degraded. The torque converter isn't going to get worse by changing the fluid. But most of us don't have that conversation enough. And then we get a customer comes in and they just want a transmission tune, and you've never seen them before and you never ask why, and you dump the tranny fluid out of it and you change the filter and then you send it down the road and they're back a month later with it like missing gears. And you're like, what happened? I can't believe it. And it's like, did you know this was happening beforehand? The customer's going to say never, right? But people don't just come in and ask for a transmission service unless there's something wrong. And, so then you go down that road of like, did we cause it? No, you didn't cause it. The customer caused it by not doing the service in time. But how do you navigate that? Well, I guess maybe you take whatever, and look at what a trans tune costs now in a Chevrolet, in a Silverado. It's like $1,000 up here, right? You buy that much fluid, that Mobile One fluid for it, you're $1,000.
Chrysler 8-speed, to get the filter on some of them, you got to buy a pan, the plastic ones, and then that fluid isn't cheap.
Yeah. So when you're trying to sell, what do you think about flushing versus doing it if it's got a serviceable filter? Because you'll see,
I believe in just doing the serviceable filter, because I had an 8-speed I did a flush on. They told me transmission had never been touched, 100,000, and the valve body goofed up on it about a few weeks later, and the service manager got the customer to pay for it, not have a problem with it, but she's wanting to get rid of the truck, and I put a valve body in. She kept it for another couple years. But and I told him, I said, that's why I'm the only one that did the exchanges in the Chrysler shop there, because the other guys would. And I'm like, I don't agree with it, but it's a paycheck at that point. But I would ask questions before I would just, see the RO and go ahead and do it, because
you have to. And then I remember way back when a guy talking about how, Kirk Robinson up here in Ontario, he talks about how the way they had addressed in his shop was, if it's got a serviceable filter, they're both servicing the filter and doing the flush. And he would break it down as like, the first thing we do is we drop the pan off, remove that filter, clean that magnet so we're not pushing that material through, and then we flush it. Well, it was an expensive service way back then, but he says, like, we almost have no issues after the fact. Because that's the whole argument, right? If you go and flush that, are you going to push that metal and that dirt?
Yeah, and all the hubs and clutch packs and everything else. Yep.
But again, we're into, look at where the price of these, transmission. People still come in thinking a transmission exchange is $200, and some of the quick lubes are probably still doing them for $300, and
but
it's
that fits all fluid in it, and that causes problems.
Isn't it the best? I had an advisor, again, my favorite advisor. He'd call me at least once a week up to the front to do a relearn on a Caravan, because it had been at one of the dumping pumps, and they did a transmission flush, and now the thing is bump shifted and everything else, right? And you had to do your transmission relearn. And of course, you know how that goes. You can do it in 4 minutes in the drive-through, right? It's hot, and they'd sit there and watch it, and he never charged them. And I'm like, they would stop going there if you'd start charging them for this.
Yep.
Because, whatever they saved by having them do it versus us, they would have lost that now by paying us to do the relearn. And, because the quick place doesn't have the faculty to do the relearn. He's like, yeah, but they just went there and got taken advantage of. It's not their fault. And I'm like, okay, so you have a customer that's already showing you that they're not even going to come here for an oil change. And then they don't even have the trust in you to call you up and say, hey, they're trying to sell me this. Should I do it here? Now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to have sympathy for them that they've, messed up their van and now we have to fix it. No, we don't have to feel sorry for them. They've shown you that they're not loyal. Now, just keep it as business and fix the damn car,
right.
But this emotional, I was talking to a good friend of mine. She's like, because we, emotional wallet, right? We talk about that all the time. She's like, I don't have an emotional wallet. I have an emotional suitcase. And I'm like, well, then that's going to be your downfall, sister, because, Lindsay, if you're listening, stop that shit. Just let it go. They're, when you do the job properly and charge for it, they're not going to be upset about the price. If they are, they were never going to be right with it regardless.
Yeah, it's a customer you don't want.
The price isn't going to matter, is it, Eric? It could be $100. You would still wonder if they could get it for $85.
Yeah.
So when you left the dealer, were you scared about making that change to go into, a general?
Yeah.
Call it.
Yeah, I was. But I got to thinking, I have been doing aftermarket training for the past 3 or 4 years. In addition to dealer training went downhill. And seeing the support online with you and, Lucas, I talked to him at Vision, kind of gave me a pep talk. All the support out there for the independent world that used to not be there. That's what kind of helped push me in. And I, I've always worked on other stuff here and there and the variety. And that's what kind of helped me make the decision. Plus, I wouldn't be flat rate anymore. Just kind of make a more comfortable living. And that friend of mine I worked with, he set me up with the shop owner because I never knew the guy before. And he was a dealer tech for 30 years before he went to independent. So he understood. And I like I said, I told him, if I don't do it, I never will. And it's scary. It's getting better. Kind of like Lucas said, the theory's all the same, just because I was trying to master it like the dealer world. And you can't do that.
No, you can't. You have to rely. That's the thing. It sounds counterintuitive, but when I walked into the dealer, I had to rely on service information a whole lot more, because same as me, you know how to get them apart without reading the service information, right? And your visual and your repetition and your pattern failure and your Techline helps you get through to kind of know where the trends and the weak points are. But man, when you start working on everything and anything, I have my head glued to that thing all the time. It's we don't have Identifix where I work, but I mean at the previous, we used it nonstop. It was constant. Not to give you the bullet, but to know, I keep saying, it isn't about getting a bullet. It's about knowing
things to test.
If there's a real common thing, don't sit there and go, it's not going to be that. No, you better start with trying to prove that it's not. because otherwise,
yeah, that's
it's
it.
waste a bunch.
And then I felt bad for a little while that I would spend more time at the computer reading how to diagnose it and tear it apart. And then, like, I had a Cadillac. I think I spent half an hour at the computer and then 5 minutes on the car, figured it out, replaced the part.
Well,
you know, and it's getting better about that. It's just, yeah, you know, that dealer mindset of, you know, you want to, know it, master it, and be done. Yep.
Yeah. But your boss probably doesn't have a problem with you doing that, does he? Yeah.
He
got to get it over her own head, you know?
Yeah, because I work in a separate shop. We have 2 buildings. They're 4 blocks apart, but we're connected, intercom and all that. But I'll call him up and I'll tell him, hey, I tested this and it tested like, you know, I got this result, and all right, go ahead and fix it. You know, he's pretty cool about it. You know, he don't want you to just call him up, well, it needs this, and then you leave it at that. I'll actually tell him, you know, why, and it helps him ease his mind. Yep.
Sure. Yep.
And
do you guys take in anything, or is there brands that you don't touch?
They basically take on anything. Euro, Asian.
Mm-hmm.
We got a military deuce and half outside right now that I'm not working on it. We got a part-timer comes in, does that.
Is that somebody's fun project? That kind of
thing? Farm toy.
Yeah.
About a month ago, I rebuilt an '84 Chrysler 5th Avenue. It only had 40,000 miles on it.
What did it need?
Oh, belts, hoses. The HVAC wasn't working right, and I got to where it blowed cold air, but it needs an actuator for the blend air, and adjust the carburetor. It had sat for a while, and the guy wanted to dry. I said, fix the doors, and I told the guy, I said, do not turn this into your daily driver.
I had one 2 years ago at the shop. I worked in. The guy brought a Fifth Avenue in, and it was the older, you know, rear wheel drive boat kind of thing there. And we did some work on it. But what were we trying to find? I can't remember what it was. Something under the hood we were trying to find, and it took forever. And then when we got the part, it wasn't exactly right, but we got it. Oh, it was a window regulator. That was it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we made it work, but I was like, you know, what is the, like, why do you want this car? Like, to, you know, but he'd had it forever, and he loved it, and he wanted to drive it around. And I think it was a convertible too. So it was like, that probably was what it made it harder to get parts for. But like that old stuff, and he, like, normally we wouldn't allow customer supplied parts, but he, because of what it was, and, you know, he had friends that, like, were in the Mopar club, right? And they're telling them where to find these parts, and, you know, they've been tested out, and somebody else has put the same thing in, and it works fine. So we made the exception to the rule for him. But I can still remember, like, working on this car and thinking, my God, like, I'm so glad this is Chrysler era before my era, because, like, I remember doing a water pump and belts and hoses on one of the front, an old, like, you know, 318 as we call it. And I still never forgotten how many stupid belts and spacers,
brackets,
and bolt brackets. Like, I was early in my career, and I was an apprentice. I'm like, this is the stupidest engineered piece of junk I've ever seen in my life. There was an air pump, there was a power steering pump, there was an alternator, there was an AC compressor, all on different belts, different spacers, different brackets. I'm like, this is stupid.
Oh yeah, putting belts on it, I was like, wow, I don't miss this.
Yeah. Thank God a serpentine belt came and fixed so many issues. They were cool cars.
Oh yeah.
But man, they were just like, nah, you know, I just, no. And the weird, when they would talk to you, the Chryslers, when they would talk to you, that was a trip. And I can remember the early Grand Cherokees when they would tell you that the light bulb was out, but then the bulb really wasn't out, you know, that would drive people nuts. And it's like, you know, we joke about it now.
Yeah. Working on the old stuff like that now, it's frustrating trying to find the parts. And, be careful because everything's so brittle, because I'd tear the dash apart a little bit. And yeah, it's not much of a money maker, but it's kind of fun. But at the same time, I'd rather work on later model stuff.
Well, you're getting into that, where now you're doing an enthusiast's car, or into you're dipping your toe in the restoration realm versus just the regular everyday, in and out type of routine, right? Of what we're actually supposed to be doing in this industry. And, I hate to tell anybody, but the reality is like a lot of these stuff, what their expectations are really don't line up with what it actually takes now to do it. Like you said, to do some of these jobs without breaking the plastic or, So you take out the, heater core, maybe isn't a good example because they come out a lot easier in the old stuff than they do in the new stuff. But you go in there and it's like, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't fit.
Yep.
Now I got this car half apart, right? What do? You drive it outside and it sits there at the end of the lot for, 2 weeks until we try something that does fit. But I
cringe at a Dodge truck when they want one done in the dash. You look at it wrong, it'll crumble on you.
Yeah. And right. Because we all know the cheat for that, but it's still the cheat is like, you're pulling the dash ahead. You're not doing it the way you used to, but you're taking a lot of that plastic apart and it's like you breathe on it wrong and it's cracking. Like Chevrolet's the same way though. It doesn't really matter. I mean, any of this junk now when it's 10 years old is brittle and fragile. Did you do a bunch of dash work?
Oh yes. I did a lot of evaporator cores, heater cores, actuators.
Yeah, I did actuators. I did a couple cores. I didn't have to do a ton of dash work. I managed to. I was out before when all the casting sand was winding up in the heater cores.
Yeah, 200s Avengers. I did a ton of them where you put radiator, heater core, oil cooler if it was a 3.6, flusher out.
And I remember I didn't understand. The guys were like, "Oh, I love doing those heater cores." I'm like, "Why?" And then you figure out the cheat code that they were doing, which is they were uncrimping the pipes out of the core and just sliding the core on, right?
Yep.
Leaving the pipes in there. And I was amazed that so many of them didn't leak. I think probably a lot of them did leak, but we didn't see it. And I remember we had a Caravan when I was at Nissan and they sold it. Of course, it plugged up and they put 3 cores in it and it kept plugging. And finally they changed the engine in it. And I was like, what are you putting in for an engine? Oh, I used one. I'm like, you think that's going to fix the problem?
Yeah.
But it was ridiculous. He got down to where he was doing them pretty fast. Like he'd do them in 2 hours. He'd do that core and he was doing it the same way because somebody at the dealer told him this is the cheat for it. But like the idea that they bought that car and then put an engine in it instead of just buying it back and auctioning it, I was like, this is ridiculous,
Yeah, that's why I'm not a car salesman. I got a conscience or I want to do it a certain way. There's no money in it. The way I want to do it.
Well, that's it. And, I work at a used car lot, so that's a daily struggle to be like, because again, if you rebuilt the car, which is what they're telling the customer it is, and it's not, versus just doing what it is to make it legal to sell and safe and reliable, there's no money. There's zero money. You don't make any. The margin's so friggin' stretched as it is. But like customers will come back and be like, I bought it 9 months ago and the AC's not cold. And you're like, yeah. Like,
yep.
AC, it worked when we sold it to you. But it's not part of the safety. And then they're flipping out, right? They're like, oh my God. And then you start giving them the quote now on what it costs to fix air conditioning now. And they're like, I'm trading the car in. Okay. You're probably going to buy something else and then next year won't have air conditioning working either. Cause it's just, 1234 it's a joke. Like it won't stay in the system.
And I imagine up there, how many rear evaporator cores have you done on Caravan? And they probably suck up there with all the corrosion.
So I'll tell you right now, Eric, most of what the guys do is, not not Dorman. There's another company. I want to say it's called CSI, and they specialize in like fuel line repair, coolant line repair, AC line repair, and they make a block off kit.
Okay.
Right. Because, and that was what a lot of them got, because it was literally just like, it was like a furrow that you'd put on, and then you'd like screw it. It's like a compression thing. That's all it is. And it would seal up and block the lines off to the back, because like, how many people bought a Caravan, and 90% of the time, if they've still got it now, nobody's riding in the back of the damn thing anyway. And then it's like, I get it. The few times you put the kids in there and the AC is cold in the front, but not in the back, they're going to whine. But, you're talking a lot of money. I remember the Caravans when they had that rear heat line that would always rot off on the firewall there just underneath. And we would do them so fast to make your head spin. They paid great too. And then, the rear evaps would start to rot out. The rear lines running to the back would rot out, and guys would just lick their lips, because it's like, you'd put that rear evap and that line in, and you tell the customer, now, listen, no undercoat this. They wouldn't. 2 years later, rotten again, and it's just like, what do I do now? Well, now I would probably cap it, because, like, you also need rear brakes that are C-strong.
Yeah.
Rear caliper on every Caravan. We did a lot of them. I did a lot.
I got an 03 Town and Country. I'd run it through an undercar car wash a lot. Because we don't have a whole lot of problems with road salt here until you go further north. But keep the dirt, because around here, dirt and grime will kill them. Yeah.
Oh, for us, and even I say undercoating, I've still pulled lots of them apart that have been undercoated, and it's still rotten. It's still swell. Like, it was such a stupid design in the sense that it was exposed. And again, their AC is another funny thing when you're having customer, conversations, is because, like, you can run back there with a sniffer and you're going to find it leaking. You're going to find the dye. But it ain't the only leak in the car. Not even close, right? And then so maybe they do fix it, and they put lines in it, and they put the rear evap in, and then you're like, 6 months later, it needs an evap under the dash. And then, look, we might as well do the whole box while we're here, because that's the right way to do a Chrysler, because you get a new core, you get the box, the actuator, the blend doors, the whole problematic junk. And people are like, my God, I spent $6,000 in HVAC on this turd. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Comfort's not cheap.
The only reason I scrapped my last Cherokee is because I was coming up on summer, and the compressor had seized up the year before, and I'd put a bypass pulley on it when you could still buy one. And I wasn't going to buy a compressor to put on it. It already didn't have floor pans really that were worth a shoot. So it was like, no, I'm not going to buy a compressor and a receiver dryer for this. I'm just going to, drive it to the junkyard. But I mean, that was the only reason. That was the only reason I got rid of that Cherokees, because otherwise I'd still be driving if it had cold air, but I just wasn't going to, fix the air. It wasn't worth it.
But not like heater cores anymore. The ones I see are 09 to 18 Rams plug up. Well, even the newest current body style, they're starting to have the same issue too.
Do you think that's got to do with how because some people show how they run, like Chrysler run the passages the other way, right? Like, I think that's got a big part of the reason why they plug up is because, and why they don't fix that, or somebody in the aftermarket hasn't come up with a way. I don't know. Cause like, you've seen it, you take them out and they're full of again, that casting sand. Right. And then it's like, I've watched Eric try to fix a couple of them with like, CLR and a pressure blast through the hoses, and he gets some heat back. But I also know I've had a bunch that, like, my 4-liter, my Wrangler, or my last Cherokee, it was starting to get like that, where, I was flushing it every year, blowing through, and it was getting the heat back. But you knew that it was just like, there was so much sediment in it that eventually it was going to be, a summer only buggy if I kept it up.
I had a 93 Acclaim like that. And the only reason why I did that was it still had R12 and the AC system didn't leak. And I'm like, I'm not putting a heater core in it and lose the R12.
Yeah. So, it was such a better refrigerator.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in terms of not, Progress. What do you hate to see come into your shop now? Anything?
Oh, nothing really yet. Just it's a learning curve. I'll figure out about anything really.
Right.
Like yesterday, I was helping out a friend of mine back home and worked on an Audi. He goes, "You want to put a compressor in one?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" The Torx bolts delight.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, I mean, it's an Audi. I mean, it's not some are not terrible and some absolutely suck. I think it's just a frame of mind. When you talked about you went to Vision, is that something your whole shop does?
No, just me.
The guy?
Unfortunately, where I'm at, they don't invest in training. He told me that when I was interviewed, and I kind of just okay, because I've always kind of trained regardless, and get used to some people. Why waste your time? Kind of beat on you, and I thought I can live with this. And no, I got a friend that I help out on Saturdays every now and then, and in return for working some, we went to Vision together, and he took care of it.
Very cool.
Yeah,
that's kind of nice.
And I went the full 4 days this year, and it was really nice. Last year I went 2 days to get a feel of it, and like I said, it was really cool. I got to meet David Roman and Lucas Underwood, and Brandon Steckler I had for an instructor.
He's amazing, he is. Isn't he? Yeah, he's absolutely. I just saw him a couple weeks ago in Pennsylvania at Tools, and I mean, now it's like, we see each other. I give him a hug, he's just he's so. How do I say it? He's so professional. Yes. You know what I mean? Like he'll share his opinion, but he does it in a way that doesn't really offend anybody, or it's just, the guy's a genius. That's the only way you can say it. He's a genius, and I've enjoyed every class I've ever taken of his. And what was cool this year is, like, I took a class with Keith Perkins.
Yeah, I got to meet him.
And Brandon. Yeah. Another genius.
Yes.
Like the two of them, you can feel almost like when the two of them are in the same room, it kind of gets all of a sudden very crowded, because there's just no friggin' way that much IQ can be in that room together. Like, they're just the two together. But it was so cool to have him in the class with Keith, because not that he's challenging Keith, but like he's asking questions, and you see the gears are turning in these two guys' heads, and you're like, man, we're in such an amazing place in the industry right now, because, like, if you want to talk to people like that, you literally just have to, like, shoot them a message, and they'll answer back. Like, it's incredible. I'm so fortunate that I consider them my friends now. Like, it's amazing, because for me, I was a dealer guy that found them online and was amazed what they were doing. Right. Yeah. And it just became, so now 15, 20 years later, from when I first started to see them, I'm amazed. I pinch myself still all the time that I'm sitting there across the table from them, drinking a beer, talking about the industry. Like, it just blows my mind. It makes me, I can't, I have to pinch myself some days, because I'm definitely a duck out of water with those guys.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it just was amazing. Yeah. Steckler, just how he teaches and, pick up stuff. And I can't remember the other instructor I had. He was a shop owner in Eric. I think it was the last.
Eric Shape?
No. Can't remember his name.
Eric, not Ziegler? Is that right? Eric?
Oh, trying to think here. Eric Walker.
Walker.
Yeah,
okay.
I just pulled that up. Yeah, I really enjoyed his classes. I took 2 of his. Adam Robertson. Took one of his classes. That guy's something else.
Richard Falco, you ever taken one of his?
Jim Wilson, that's another one I've taken his classes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big believer in continuous education. That's kind of because my friend told this shop owner, hey, and then when I met him, he goes, yeah, we kind of train as we learn as we go. And I said, well, I'm going to keep doing my education. And he's like, that's fine. I do lunch and learns whenever they come on. Those are really good. Andrew Fisher just did one last week.
Yeah, another brilliant guy. Like it just
and Peter Coombs, that's another good one.
Oh, it just that we could talk for an hour on just the
support's amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this industry. Like we get all wrapped up sometimes in the negative of it, right? And even I do, because it's so much of what I do is people like yourself that are reaching out to me to talk about it, right? And you're talking about the good and the bad, and I wish that like I had more positive sometimes to say. But we don't get the problem solved if we don't talk about the problem. But I should really learn to kind of highlight more the people that are, really making the difference in terms of our education.
Yeah. Well, with you, and when I got referred to start, listening, it made me feel I'm not alone. I always thought I was alone and no one hearing others. I mean, you hear about it when you went to dealer classes and stuff, but it's just kind of not the same, because everybody's still out for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. Like even my coworkers, like I wanted to help them and make sure that they weren't struggling. But I mean, it was still very cliquey in the sense that, like, I go back to the four of us that did a lot of the diag and electrical. We'd help one another, but if we saw another guy struggling sometimes that we didn't really like necessarily agree all the time with how he did things, we didn't rush over to throw him a life preserver,
let him drown a little bit,
kind of probably put our foot on his head a little bit for a little while, right? Until you kind of go over there and go, okay, what's going on? Or if it came back and it got dispatched to you, that's when shit got ugly. That's when stuff got really bad, because now, now you've got people that are angry because the car's back. And you know why the car's back? Because we dispatched it to the wrong person. And then you can make every excuse in the world why we did that. And some of them are valid excuses. Sure, they are. Customer didn't want to wait, blah, 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 blah.
But you got to give them the reality of, don't just BS them.
Yeah. Like I say it all the time. Don't give me, air conditioning jobs that are super complicated, because I'm not your guy for that. I'm not comfortable with the diag side of it. I'm not. Can I get it done? Yeah, but I'm slow as hell at it. And I'm meticulous about it. And like, I never think that, even though, and here's the other thing, I think the very reality is, like, we do know that, like, even when we get it together and sealed up, it doesn't stay sealed up. So that's always where I think, like, I missed something. We didn't miss something. It, pressure is pressure. Today it was stayed behind, the seal, 10 more heat cycles, and all of a sudden the seal won't hold it.
Yeah, you got a system that holds under vacuum, but as soon as you put a little pressure on it. Do you do nitrogen leak testing?
That's kind of the preferred way that a lot of us up here want it done. Now, I'll tell you that that's not always how do I say it? Customers get really yanked when they have an AC system that's like, so how the mandate works for the government up here, because again, it's government controlled, is that if the system is like low, and say you evac the system, you take out their 1 pound of refrigerant that's in there, it's supposed to be 2 pound system, and you throw nitrogen in it, and you find the leak, and you give them the bill, and they say, I don't want to fix it. Technically, I'm not supposed to put refrigerant back in that car, because it's a known leaking system. Right. So it's being administered. Well, you want to see some customers get angry. They get angry when they had a somewhat working system, and now they have a completely empty, not working system, because you took out their 1 pound of refrigerant and you put it in a waste tank. They get pretty pissed. So I'll tell you why a lot of places don't use nitrogen, is because they want to leave whatever's in the system and try to find the leak with that. You and I know that, like, a lot of it, when you're looking at it, it doesn't work because it's empty. Yeah. So what's the first step? Well, you hook up, and if there is anything in it, you evacuate it, and then you put a tracer die in. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but this is how most do it. You put tracer die in, you charge the system, you start looking for a leak. You charge the system with refrigerant. And maybe you find some leaks. Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
Right? We all know that there's a lot of EVAPs that have always been leaking that we don't find. Sometimes because they don't want to find them. And sometimes because until we got to this where we started to actually maybe look for the UV dye dripping out of the hose, like the vent. Or till we got some of the sniffers that get really good in being able to find them way up in the dash. We didn't find it, So then the customers drive along, and next year they come back in again and they get another charge, and so that's why nitrogen isn't really like, I don't want to say it's not popular, but it's not, every shop out there is not making it the way to do it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, that friend I help out, he does it, but where I'm at, we don't. It's just, charge it up and, see where the dye comes out, or if you're lucky, see where, you've seen where it's leaking beforehand.
Yeah. And the 1234 is such an expensive refrigerant now that it's having to change sometimes, I think, the way that we actually troubleshoot. Like my friend Josh is talking about, like a 1234 system to eval at his shop. He's in North Carolina. It's $500, And I can remember working at a shop 2 years ago that like it was $250 to eval a 1234 system, So because again, the price of refrigerant's gone up in price. Now you look at what 134 costs, and it's starting to creep up from where it was, because again, they're not moving as much of it. And then you talk to other people and they're like, oh, I retrofitted a bunch of 1234s to 134, and you're like, not really supposed to do that.
No, but at least there's an identifier on the 1234 machine.
Yeah. Which again, though, that identifier, you've seen the conversations, Eric. That oxygen sensor that's in there is pretty problematic. It don't last. And then guys are buying, an $800 oxygen sensor to put in their 2-year-old machine, and they're cranked right up, right? They're irritated. So I see both sides. I mean, like, I'll tell you, if I was in at my shop right now, we don't have a working air conditioning machine, so we sublet it all out. And I asked a friend of mine, Ben, I'm like, what do you think about, like, how would I go about this in my shop? And he's like, well, lots of guys that he talks to, they're buying, a standalone pump and a standalone gauge set, and they're doing 1234 with no identifier. And, they're finding the leaks and sealing the system and putting them back together. And, I think that may be in the name of progress, unfortunately, has made some of these cars become, they go to the junkyard because people don't want to pay for fixing air conditioning. And that's sad again. Yeah. That's just like, to me, it's just the same as the EV battery argument, right? It's going to the junkyard because the repair exceeds the value of the vehicle, and that's pretty pathetic that what's essentially still a creature comfort, means that the car isn't worth repairing. I mean, we're lucky in Canada. We don't, like, I haven't turned my air conditioning on yet, except for this weekend. That's the first time. And so it's May, and I'll probably turn it off probably by September. It's a shorter season. All people down in Florida and Georgia and Alabama and Vegas, Arizona, they're running it 12 months of the year. They're running air conditioning, and it's definitely adding to the cost. So I don't know. I don't like some of the progress that's been made and what it's costing our customers. But at the same time, we had a conversation today. You see it all the time, and you probably have heard David talk about it, Eric. A lot of us are living above our means, right? And I think that's when we haven't necessarily prioritized auto repair. So, I said to somebody this morning, we've got people walk in wearing $300 sneakers and holding on to a $1,000 iPhone and drinking a $9 cup of coffee from Starbucks, and they want a brake job done for $400. Like their priorities are backwards. And that's where I think we've got to really start to, if we're going to fix this industry or survive it or whatever you want to say, we're going to have to learn how to start having real tough conversations.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a guy like David, he goes, yeah, they'll wait 3 hours or so for an iPhone and won't fix their car. But, well, like car quality, I mean, like I had a talk with a friend of mine I used to work with, dealer. He goes, a new car today, what one would you buy to last you 10 to 20 years? They're few and far between.
I don't know if anything's made now with even intending to get it to last 20. You know?
I mean, 7 years for parts support on them. And they're sticking to that real bad now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, look at the ABS modules that you can't get for a Chrysler, right? That's just one example. You know, thousands of those things are parked because the ABS light's on or the modules, like, and you can't get them. And then, you know, some you can make a used one work, other ones you can't. There's workarounds, obviously. That's just nuts to me.
Yeah.
That, because I can remember, like, in the early days of Chrysler, those friggin' things lasted way longer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you didn't see them fail nearly as often as you do now. Not nearly as often. So what did they change that made them fail now? Well, right. We
found the cheapest bidder.
Yeah, exactly. COVID chips all of a sudden are going in. And then, you know, the fact that they can't make a workaround that says, okay, because you know it can be done. All it takes is a software thing to say, okay, we realize these aren't being supported, but we're going to go in and do a software tweak so that you can make a used one work. I mean, if they can make an EcoDiesel run without the crank sensor,
yeah,
they can fix a lot of these modules just with programming. Let's think about that. They took a truck that, like, okay, we can lose the reluctor and the thing will still start and run.
Uh-huh.
If we can do that, we can certainly go in and with a patch, or like we did with when you couldn't get DEF quality sensors. All of a sudden now we release software that says it's not going to derate the truck anymore. You know, we know that you got a DEF problem, but until we can get you apart, you're going to be able to drive your truck. It's as simple, and I don't like the fact that they're holding back. But people vote with their wallets, and if they continue to keep buying new cars and then complain about the quality of the new car, what are you really saying? Like, you know, you got to draw a line in the sand at some point.
Yeah, you got. Yeah, I mean, instead of feeding the machine.
That's right, exactly. I drive a 2015. You know, people would look at that and go, "Well, you're driving a 10-year-old car," because I normally used to always drive, you know, almost 20-year-old cars. You know, I was driving, well, 4 years ago, I got rid of my 96 Jeep. So do the math on that. In 2021, I got rid of a 96. Yep. You know, how old was that? Like, it was almost 20. I'm keeping more stuff closer to 20 years than I'm keeping it to 10.
Yeah, that's how I am. I used to drive stuff, you know, less than 10 years old. And of course, I was back when stuff was, you know, a lot more solid. You knew it was going to work. Now it's like, well, take a gamble.
I can remember buying 10-year-old Shadows for, I joke all the time. I bought one for $250 because somebody told me they needed a head gasket and they needed a distributor. And like, I sold that car. I drove it for 3 months and I sold it to somebody and I doubled my money because they needed the tranny out of it. But I mean, I sold it and safetied it. It needed nothing. And it was already 10 years old at that point, and it wasn't all rusted out. You look at stuff now that's 10 years old and in different climates, it's not worth fixing because it's so
like
rusted.
Swiss cheese at that point.
And you look at even kind of the way the coil springs are breaking now on 5 and 6 year old cars, it's ridiculous. Oh, yeah. Like the metal that we're being made, you know, that we're buying from China and retooling back into parts is not the same as virgin metal. And you know, it just makes everybody angry. And I don't know. That's the part that I struggle with when people are angry at my industry. Like, you can be angry at the OE, but we're not the OE.
We didn't build it. We didn't break it.
Even when you know this, when you work in a dealer, you're not the OE. Like, you move their product for them, but you have no input hardly at all on how that product's built or marketed or what it costs. None. You get zero, you know? And and again, everybody's like, well, if all the dealers, because I hate that, these dealer mechanics can't do this and dealer mechanics can't do that. Yeah, some are pretty bad. But the reality is like nobody, if you're not going to pay them to do the job properly, is going to do the job properly.
Right.
Nobody. Like this idea that like I'm gonna do it right even though I'm not getting paid. That's a bunch of BS. You're gonna do that maybe for a little while. If you do it your whole career, I feel for you because you just got you got taken advantage of. You shouldn't do it. It's like it's the same as I tell, I don't want to advocate for, revolt and revolution, but we had lots of conversations back in the day where if they gave us something and the time wasn't going to be enough, we didn't do it, and it wasn't just like one of us wouldn't do it. You'd see that work order come back out and they try to get another, and everybody would stand fast and say, no, not doing it.
And they give it to an hourly guy or they'd figure something out to help Yep.
And that's where, you've got to learn how to make yourself indispensable, because if you don't have anything to offer your employer and you take that attitude, they're just you'll be kicking your lunch pail down the road. But if you've done like you do and take the training and make yourself, a little more valuable to them, above average, whatever you want to call it, they'll listen at least. Sometimes they maybe even compromise. They don't like to do it, but they will do it. But if you're not making yourself indispensable, you're at their mercy. And I don't like to be at anybody's mercy. That's why I don't work flat rate. I don't want to be at somebody else's, mercy to what defines my paycheck. I want my paycheck to be defined by, and everybody goes, well, how hard you work defines your paycheck. No, it doesn't, because we've all seen where people don't market properly. We don't dispatch properly. We don't charge properly. And you're not making the kind of work that you used to make. Your hours, your pay, whatever you want to call it. And that's not then me not doing the work, right? That's them not accounting for their shortcomings, their bottlenecks.
I always felt like, we're the only industry, the more you know, the less you make. It feels like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you have, when you started before you got out of the dealer, did you find that the young people coming in just wanted to coast?
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
They couldn't kick it to one of the older guys. And then they just want to do the grunt work.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you were there, how did pay work? Because, we all talk about like pay works from the standpoint of like your hours. But I know for me, like hours weren't it, because once you all had your license, every dealer I ever worked at, you all got paid the same per hour. And then you just had to sell more hours if you wanted to earn more pay. Did you guys, or like,
it varies on your certifications and your experience. Two dealers I've ever worked at, we were all the same. The first one, it was a percentage of the labor rate, and you only got a raise when the labor rate went up. The second time, we were all masters anyways, and they paid us all the same. But no, the last dealership, it varied based on experience. And like one guy did all the Ram 45, 5500 Pro Master. He got the most, and he can have that. He had the work area for it and everything. But and then the younger guys, it was an hourly / how much work you kicked out, a performance bonus. So they would go after like services, like BG stuff, eat breaks, easier stuff to get their performance bonus. And
that's at the dealer I worked at. We all grabbed the low hanging fruit. That's what you're looking for with every MPI that you did. You were hoping to, sell the service, because the thing that they were there for didn't pay worth a damn. Even if it was like a seasonal oil change and tire rotation and brake inspection, it paid you 0.8. That was coming to the shop and not to the quick lube up front, because they wanted you to find work on it, right? And you'd find a tie rod that was bad, you'd find control arm bushings that were bad, but like you saw so many guys that like they made a career out of never learning how to diagnose a basic electrical system, but they could sell 50 hours a week because they could do all the front end and all the flushes. Like they were masters at it, I have a picture of my Facebook of me at the Nissan dealer, and I'm not, and I've got 3 flush machines going at one time. I've got a brake flush, a coolant flush, and a fuel system service going, and it was a high enough mileage on the car, and the customer came in requesting, we did it. But I mean, that's not real skill at that point. Like it's just, it's putting reps in. It's not the same. Yeah. It's not what the customer really needs. They need problem solving.
Oh yeah, you get a car, you're doing all them services, and you find a wheel that's loose, and you're like, you could have moved that money over to that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, that's the thing. You see it all the time. That's the big argument that comes up in a lot of the owner groups is the customer comes in for, these pre-sold jobs, or they come in wanting this, and you don't do the DVI. You start immediately doing the, services. And then you find out that it's like, oh, shoot, like she's here for a transmission flush, a brake flush, and, a tune-up. And then you're like, well, shoot, the left rear tire's bald. The right rear tire's got braid coming through it, and it needs brakes and a tie rod and alignment all the way around. And because you've already started on the gravy, you got to call her up and sell her more work. And then she's going, well, can I hold off on doing the gravy and get the safety? No, unfortunately, we've already started on that. Well, shoot, how do you look to the customer now? Yeah. You don't look like an advocate, you look like
we took your money.
You look like yeah, right? Because they were, and again, the customer's just trying to look after their investment. Yeah. But like we're supposed to be advocating for their safety first, their longevity and reliability second. And we don't do that when we're coached or taught to, find one thing, get them out of the dealership or get them out of the shop, and then look the car over. I got a problem with that. I don't believe that that's the right way to make this industry better. But what would I know? I don't have a private jet, so it's a funny conversation to me because, like, even back in the day, I just learned when I was writing the estimate, and it could have been a neglected turd, right, Eric? And you'd be like, you knew how to write it where it prioritized. Yeah. And, the customer's there for an AC complaint on their Caravan, and that rear evap and lines is going to pay good, but there's no rear brakes left. The tires are shot. Tie rod's bad. Steering rack's leaking. Like, all that stuff that should be done before the AC is addressed.
Or they have the right to know everything that's wrong with it. I like Sherwood's, you hold back, and then they're mad at every time they come in. It's $1,000, $2,000,
Yeah, if it needs $6,000 of work the first time you see it, you better tell them that it needs $6,000 worth of work first time you see it. It doesn't mean that they're going to do all 6 right then, but they're not going to get a surprise next month when it's another 1,000, another 1,000, another 1,000. Until you're at 6,000. That's I saw advisors that tried to do that. They would have this whole plan laid out with their customer, and then they would say go on vacation, and the customer would come in, make the appointment, and the other advisor get it, and all that work would get done in one shot. And you're like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, and that goes back to what and people hear me say it all the time. Like you got to have the conversation, but you got to realize that, like, most of the customers have the means to fix this stuff. If you don't, and this is going to blow up when Braxton does this is a short, this is real. There's going to be, my comments are going to go. Most of the customers have the friggin' money. If they don't even bring it in. If it comes in on a tow truck, they've got money. If it comes into the bay, they've got money. Now, do they necessarily have all the money? That depends. Can they find the rest of it? Almost always, yes. The cars that they can't afford it, they're sitting in the driveway, and we know the ones when we see them when you drive by because their tires are flat and it hasn't moved in a year. That's the customer that doesn't have the money. If they're in front of you right now, they've got the money. That's what you have to tell yourself. So, You know, it doesn't mean that you go and empty you don't fleece them. You don't
let them
empty
pick their
pockets.
battles on what they want done. But safety comes first, though.
Always. Any closing thoughts, Eric? It's kind of been we've kind of hit the 2-hour mark here and could be going for a lot longer. But.
Nothing really. Like I said, it's like I said, I'm glad I made the jump to being an independent. Like I said, it just growing, different atmosphere, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's working out for the best, and I don't regret it. At times it's tempting to want to go back to the dealer, but it's like, no, I don't. I'm more calm. I'm not ready to bite somebody's head off. That sort of thing. So
yeah, you seem pretty calm to me. You don't seem like the type that got.
I'll get fired up every now and then.
I did. I was that guy. Like you could, I was the guy that had a storm cloud over my head most of the days. It was just what it did to me. I mean, it was, and I was an arrogant cuss too. Because I worked really hard at it, and I expected everyone else to work as hard as I was. And when I felt like everybody wasn't, yeah, you could see me coming. You know about it because I was, I held them to a standard. Which is not, David jokes that he's unemployable. I was, I'm not there yet, but I'm very close to there. Like I'm very lucky that my current employer, he's very understanding of how I expect things that should be done and just the way I see things, what we can handle and what we can't. Pick your battles, if we're not tooled up, I'm not even interested in trying to, impress anybody anymore. If we don't have the tooling, we don't have the info, send it out to somebody that does.
Yeah, the only thing I put the woe on is diesel. And luckily my boss, he'll go, like I've had a couple of Duramaxes. I'm like, that I don't, he goes, give it a shot, check engine light. If it's something beyond what you want to mess with, then we'll have somebody else work on it. And and that's fine, because there's times where that's the only thing you got to work on, and right. At least he's cool about that rather than shove it down my throat. I'm married to it and, everything else.
Because that's the part I always hated is I'm good at that. I'll give them warning, go, hey, I'm not strong at this, or hey, there's some special tools that we're going to need to, if we get into this, and if we get into it, we need to see the way out, which is going to be, are you willing to do that? We had it just with the Tesla. And, he's like, no, I get it. Okay, we'll send it to somebody that's, more familiar. It's these jobs that go sideways, and everybody gave them notice that it could. And then when it's all said and done, they're not pointing the finger back at them that made the decisions. They're pointing the finger at you. And I can only do what I can do with what I have, which is A, the tooling, or B, the training. And if you give me neither, like, do you want to see a magic show? Go to friggin' Las Vegas. Like, that's where they are. I'm not working magic here anymore. Like, it just doesn't, it doesn't happen that way. I mean, sometimes, yes, you can find the way and work around. Sometimes that's the right thing to do because it's the only thing to do. But we don't need to fix every friggin' car. That's such a...
Yeah, you can't fix all the world's cars.
No, there's more friggin' cars than we can all get through. And if more of us would stay in our damn lane, we wouldn't have such a shit reputation with the motoring public, because we wouldn't seem like we didn't know what we were doing. We would have been upfront and honest and said, hey, I'm not your guy.
Yeah, I'll acknowledge my strengths and weaknesses. I mean, because I don't want to, cost the customer or the company,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, when you're the dealer and it's under warranty, you know how we do it, right? Sometimes you go and grab the part out of the one in the bay next to you and you put it in and it didn't work. Good. You're done. Or it did work and your diag's done, In the aftermarket, we don't have that luxury too often. It can happen, but we don't have.
You got to be more accurate on your diagnosis, because you can't just wing a part at it for nothing under warranty.
Yeah, I tell the story. We had a Nissan Titan with a diesel, and it was gonna get ready to go on a Christmas parade, Santa Claus parade. So you go out and fire it up, and all of a sudden it's running like a bag of hammers and barely no power, dash lights up. So let's put this at, say, the end of November is when we're getting this ready for this parade route. Well, they don't take the truck. They don't put it in a parade. Monday morning, technician looks at it. He finds a bunch of corrosion in the ECM and a bunch of corrosion ECM connectors. It's under warranty. Call up Nissan. Nissan sends him a harness and an ECM. He puts the harness and ECM in. Actually, he doesn't do it. By now, he's so swamped when it finally comes in, like 2 months later, goes to another tech. The other tech puts it in. Truck runs exactly the same. Well, it ended up being a shorted fan clutch, right? If you've worked on any of the old Cummins diesels, you remember that those fan clutches would do the exact same thing. Now, when you're dealing with shit under warranty, right? You make two claims. You go and write up another VIN number for a fan clutch, and you put a fan clutch in it, and you solve your problem, right?
Or you become one hell of a story writer.
Yeah. Not advocating for that, but this is I'm giving some of the secret sauce out. But the reality is, when we're in the aftermarket, we can't do that. It doesn't flow. And so that's why sometimes when we go to them and go, hey, like, I'm going to need 3 hours to get to the problem here. We can't roll our eyes and go, what, do you not know what you're doing? No, I really don't know what I'm doing. And B, I'm trying to avoid, doing it the way we used to do it.
Yeah.
When the were a lot less money and a lot more interchangeable and a lot more common. I remember working in shops where they always had a set of Ford coils ready to go for the Tritons because they were all needed a coil eventually. And I can remember having, a leak detection pump on my box or an ESIM on my cart for, every Chrysler. Plug it in and run the bay test and done, right? We all know that. When you're in the aftermarket, it changes your process. And if we're still trying to charge what the dealer charges for Diag, realize that the dealer's got an advantage on you and you probably should be charging more than them. And it's not me running the dealer down. God knows by now, if anybody's listened to me, I'm the last person you're going to hear running that down, because that's my history. I don't throw my people under the bus.
I'm proud of what I've accomplished in the dealer world.
Yeah, me too. I tell the story, and God, we're getting long-winded today. I tell the story, if it hadn't been for the dealer job that I took in 2000, actually it was 99. If I hadn't taken that dealer job, I wouldn't be in the industry, because I was going broke working at that little shop, buying tools. I was not getting exposed to anything but C-level tech. And if I hadn't taken that job of the dealer for $5 more an hour hourly, and got handed a DRB3 way back in the day and said, here, Jeff, go figure this out. Here's the service information. There's a recall. There's a bulletin that tells you how to update this module. It's part of a recall. We're doing like 10 a day now. Go learn how to do that. I wouldn't be sitting here. So I have no hate for the dealers.
No, me neither. That's my roots and what made me who I am.
Yeah. Eric, you got a succession plan going out, man, to get out of this industry? Or
no?
How many more years do you think you got?
I'm hoping for another 10. Yep.
Okay.
My body's still decent.
You're 53 50. Now? 50. You're the same age as
I'll actually be 50 in December.
Holy
shit. I'm a youngin'.
I'll be 51. I'll be 51. Well, if you think you got another 10 years, I'm hoping out for you, man. It's I think you can do it if you keep, I wish I'd have taken better care of my knees and my back when I was younger, but I'm pretty lucky. I work with guys that their knees and back are worse than mine.
If I couldn't, I wouldn't mind teaching. Like I said, doing like what they do at Vision, stuff like that. I would enjoy that. I don't think I could do like VOTEC or high school. I don't think I got the patience for that.
Yeah, that's a different obstacle, eh? That's a different challenge.
But I think that would be my only, because I love the industry and what is provided, despite the frustrations. I mean, but talking about it helps a bunch. I mean,
Yeah, it really does, eh? It's like you said when you said to me, you didn't feel like you were alone anymore. I get that almost every week, somebody telling me that. And it's hard for me to still like grasp what they're saying because like I feel like I'm just out here talking. and but I realize how many people feel the same way and don't feel like they're being listened to. And
there's much more that needed to reach out, like that latest change in the industry. How few people in the automotive world watch them guys, less than 1%.
Yeah. And that's why I get frustrated sometimes because I get frustrated with text when it's like, how do you not know who Paul Danner is by now? Like, how do you not? I've been online for over 10 years talking about him. You all should know. That's in my narrow brain what I think. And then it's like when you see shop owners talking and they're struggling, I'm like, how are you still making this mistake? Like, you got Lucas and David who've been talking online for 6 years about how not to let customers leave without paying the bill. But yet I remember that like less than 5% of us even know who the hell Lucas and David are, or who the hell I am.
Well, it's like Vision. So, Sherwood saying the same people go into it every year. It hadn't expanded out. And then don't you guys have something similar to it up there? And your turnout's kind of similar?
We have an event in Toronto, which Toronto is the largest city in the country. And there's enough shops in Toronto that could send their people to that show and they would break the capacity of the show. They wouldn't be able to, like, they would have, and I could call up 100 people in Toronto that are in the industry. I could call them up and they wouldn't even know the show's going on. And I'm not throwing mud at anybody. I'm not throwing shade. It's just the fact is all these events that I've said for years, and all of them have so much work still to do in getting their name and exposure and date and prices out there. They haven't even scratched the surface. And it's ludicrous to me when, they think that a Facebook page is enough. You have to get everybody, like, so when you have all these people that are coming to the expo and they're trying to sell their product, those are your people that you need to be empowering to be able to sell the event to the people that want to come to it. And maybe you got to work out something where it's like you give them again, I'm not an economics guy. Maybe you got to some kind of incentive so that they come, but they talk about where they're going to be or you need to be here. Like all of these events are a you need to be here event. Yeah. And yet, like the one in Toronto, nobody friggin' knows when it's happening or what it's going to be.
It's like going to a car show, like in my area. You walk around cars, you'll see flyers for other car shows. Kind of do something like that, for some of these other trade shows, or put them in magazines like Motor Age. How many shops get, those publications?
Well, and see, the thing is, like, Ratchet and Wrench and all those magazines, like, I don't know because Ratchet and Wrench is hard to get in Canada. But, like, you should be pulling a print ad every month for your show for the year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it should be to, like, then there's no excuse. And that's the excuse then becomes is, well, what if they don't read the magazine? Okay, that's where then social media comes in. That's when it becomes like they shouldn't be able to walk into a parts store or every time the parts store makes a delivery, there's a flyer from your event with the stack of rotors till they're piling up and they don't want to look at it. Like, you can't tell me you've done everything that you can to make these shows people aware of them if you haven't done those things yet. And I understand. Listen, it all costs money. I get it. And maybe the future isn't for these destination events because of the cost. And maybe then that means that people like are going to shift to, more online training and more bringing the trainer in. But here's the beauty of these events. We keep saying it isn't what you learn in the classroom. It's the people that you meet when you're networking around the pub, around the bar, when you're having dinner, that is really empowering you to change your business. And in turn, when you change your business, you change the industry. So you can sit there and go, it costs too much to go for training. No, it doesn't. And these events, they need to start seeing, instead of seeing each event as an opponent or as a competitor. They need to start working together to be like, if I was at Asta, and Asta and Tools, we've got kind of the same, a lot of the same people attend those two shows because they have the same kind of vibe. But there's a lot of people that attend Vision, right? There's a lot of people that attended Tectonic. I'm not saying everybody needs to go to every event, but holy frig, it'd be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool if, like, when you're at Vision, somebody could be handing out flyers for Tools. Yeah. Or somebody could be handing out flyers for Tectonic. Somebody could be handing out flyers for Asta, and onward and onward and onward. Like, because it's only so much that, like, we're all inundated with information now and advertising and Facebook, that there's a lot coming across that we don't even notice.
Yeah.
But if somebody hands you a flyer and goes, hey, did you know that, you're here at Super Saturday, but Tools is going to happen, 5 months from now. Would you be interested in coming back down this way? Oh yeah, I would love to. Well, shit. That was a small investment to make that happen. And that's why, as long as I can be on here, I'm going to continue to tell everybody about the events that I know that are going on and the events that I've been to. Now, if I've never been to Vision, so I can't tell anybody what it's like because I ain't been there. But I can tell you that, like, people rave about it, and people rave about every event. So
yeah, like the next one I want to try to go to is Vegas, the one out there.
Yes,
just because SEMA shows also going on too.
So I'll tell you, Eric, I went for the first time 2 years ago, right? And everybody knows that story. I've been wanting to go to SEMA since before I had a driver's license. And Vegas is, I mean, it's an expensive city to be in, but it's incredible. It changed my life to be able to walk around SEMA. Now, I'll tell you, Asta for me is a work. Like, I'm working, I am doing interviews, but to be able to walk around SEMA and get my batteries recharged on the inspiration that you see there as a gearhead, I think everybody needs to seriously make that trip. And I think everybody, still needs to make the trip to Vision. I hope to get there one day. I hope they help me out in getting there. Asta has a feel, like it just feels different. Tools has got the exact same thing. I'm still on a high from coming home from Tools, and I've been home 2 weeks from it. Like, it's, you meet people. I met so many former guests and future guests, people that, I never got to meet in person. I only talked to them on here, and all of a sudden they come to Tools or they come to Asta, and I finally get to give them a hug and shake their hand. Like, that's life-changing stuff. Mm-hmm. It's where that next level of connection happens.
And that's the only way to do it is actual real life, connection, not just through a webinar or whatever.
Yeah. Well, Eric, I don't want to keep any more of your time. We got to let you go.
All right. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, dude, we'll do this again for sure. I would love to have more conversation, more, more kind of share with us what you're doing at the shop and tell us about that. Cause I mean, we kind of touched on the dealer thing, but I mean, that'll be always interesting. So we'll have you back on at some point for sure. Everyone, I just want to say thank you. Like he said, you're not alone. So reach out to me if you feel like you are. To my family at, Promotive and Launch Tech, Techmetric. I can't do this without you guys. So thank you for everything that you provide me the ability to do. I try not to let you down. So everybody, try to be just 1% better tomorrow than you were today, and love one another. Give your service riders a little more grace. Service riders, pick your game up.
Yep.
And collectively, we'll all change this industry. So thank you, everybody. I love you. We'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
So thank you again for watching that episode of the Jaded Mechanic Podcast. If you want to watch the next episode that we have coming up, you need to click right here. And if you want to join us on this wonderful journey of change in the industry, become part of the family, click right here. Thank you.